Well, folks, Deebsha, it's Gerry Adams here, and I've been asked to say a few words about our friend and our comrade Bobby Storey. And first of all, I want to extend my deepest sympathy and condolences and solidarity to Teresa and to all Bobby's clan. Teresa loved Bobby. Bobby loved Teresa. They were good for each other, and I spent many very enjoyable times in their company, particularly in recent time as Bobby battled against his illness. And some of us who are close to him knew in the last days that he was in difficulties. But even when we got the dreadful news, it came as a shock. And I'm sure, and I thought about this myself, as people heard all over Ireland the news that Big Bobby, Bob Moore, had passed, that there were tears shed. And I shed quite a few myself, and may continue to do so in the upcoming period. Bobby was a very tall man, but he was very gentle. His entire life was given to the Republican struggle. He was interned first when he was 17 years of age. And, you know, there are times when, because we've all come through this, those of us who have survived, we tend to take a lot of it for granted. But to live under military occupation, here in the city of Belfast or anywhere else in the north, was a dreadful existence. Especially for anyone who was a Gael, who was a Republican, who had a sense of themselves because of the provocation of the old Unionist state and of the British Army and the RUC in particular. And Bobby regularly ran foul of all of that. Now, many people knew him, and it's interesting just how a person can affect so many people. But I think what most people who knew Bobby and who liked him or were fond of him or loved him, as some of us did, was his kindness. He was very tolerant. Maybe he got that from his mother. His mother was a wonderful woman, and his father too. And he spent 20 years in prison. Just think about that. 20 years, almost half of his adult life in prison. And yet he came out without any bitterness, without any sense of vengeance. He knew whose side he was on. He knew what side he was on. And he continued, whatever the mode of struggle was, to wage that struggle convincingly and with determination and commitment and great energy. He was in many ways a life force of our struggle. My memory, for example, last week he was on the phone here to Clet, or she was on the phone to him, and he was chatting and he was winding up and he was slagging and teasing about Brandy Mac's salad sandwiches and numerous other, even though he was facing an operation within hours or days of that. He was always positive. I'm sure maybe in the quiet moments he may have had concerns or fears, but he certainly never showed it. He was highly intelligent, and he argued, debated, cajoled, led by example Republicans to face up to and confront these different challenges, whether it was in the run-in to the Good Friday Agreement, whether it was subsequently in big challenges like policing and justice. I mean, the examples are numerous. But let me say also, there's a lot of nonsense written about Bobby Storey by elements of the media and other observers. And even this notion of this jovial, good-natured, good-tempered giant of a man being a shadowy figure, standing the rationale of a peace process entirely on its head, that because one had been imprisoned, one couldn't play a role in building an unarmed, peaceful, democratic organisation like Sinn Féin. And Sinn Féin was built by many, many people. No one person deserves credit, but Bobby was among them. And then to present in the lazy way and the stupid way that in some way a mass movement of emancipation, a mass independence movement, a mass movement which now has more support than any other party at this time in the island of Ireland, would in some way be manipulated by 3 or 4 or 5 different people. Just total and absolute bunkum. It's a matter of deep regret that Bobby didn't live to see this decade of opportunities fulfilling its potential to bring about a united Ireland, and he was one of those who made that a doable project, and one of those who embraced the peaceful way to do it once a peaceful mechanism was developed. So I think we all have a duty to grasp that mechanism, to grasp that opportunity, to make Irish unity by dint of a referendum a reality in the time ahead. And in the meantime, we'll all think of our memories, of our recollections, and if you were to ask me to sum it up in one sentence, and I'm not for a second moving away from my admiration of Bobby as a Republican, as an activist, and as a comrade, but for me it will always be Bobby the storyteller, the funny man, the guy who told stories against himself, the guy every time the story of the Great Escape was told, he added a bit to it and managed in telling it to shine above Gerry Kelly or Vic McFarlane in the escapade that was the largest prison break in the history of British penal history. So that was Bobby. Gunyani Gia Truckra ar anam Dilsha, Ta sé ar an slí an Uranya Anish, Slán a Cara, Slán Bob.